Okay, media artists, I'm going to show you now how to create the animation out of your Galaxy creation. Remember that your final image should look something like this. It should feel like you've constructed your own space out of a multiple different objects and things, that you've used a color scheme and you've created a final image that looks really interesting like this. Before you can start to create your animation, you have to make sure that you have JPEGs of each of the stages of your animation. And if you want to have something flying or moving through, you have to have a JPEG of each of those things as well. If you didn't make JPEGs, you can quickly solve that problem by hiding all your layers and making JPEGs of each one of them. So in this particular case, you can hide everything except layer 1, and you just simply go File, Save As, change this to JPEG, and save it somewhere where you know you're saving all your other files, and call it Galaxy 1. Hit Save. You can change this to a little bit higher, but it doesn't need to be super high. It's just for the screen. Okay, so let's say you've got all that sorted out. You can go to layer 2, make a JPEG. You can go to layer 3, make a JPEG. Layer 4, make a JPEG. Layer 5. Great. Let's start a new file. So to create the animation, you need to start by putting all of the JPEGs into one file. So we're going to do that. I saved them all to my desktop here. Here they are all here. Galaxies 1 through 9. Easiest thing to do, click once, hold Shift, hold them all down. When you go through Photoshop, sorry, we got to go through Photoshop to get them. So go to Photoshop, File, Open. Don't forget to always go that way. Here they all are. Galaxies 1 through 9, hold Shift and click Open. So now you're going to see all the different JPEGs, the individual JPEGs that show all the different stages are going to show up on your screen here. My suggestion is simply just to use the first one and build your file out of this first one here. I would also suggest you unlock your background to avoid any complications. So do that first, simply by unlocking your background. All you need to do is double click here, and then you'll get an option to unlock the layer, and it'll be called layer 0 to say OK. Now it's unlocked. Great. You can move it out of the way a little bit. Go grab Galaxy 2. Make sure you're using the Move tool, the very top tool, and grab Galaxy 2 and drop it into Galaxy 1. You'll see here that it instantly created a new layer, but you'll also notice that it's not quite lined up. So what you want to do is use those little gray you can sort of see the side of the image there. Use that to help you line it up. You can actually use your arrow keys as well. You want all of this to be in line before you start your animation. So then I'd suggest you just move that one back out of the way, grab Galaxy 2, close it, go and find Galaxy 3. There it is, Galaxy 3. Great, put it in, line it up, make sure it's definitely lined up. Use your arrow keys until it looks good. Close that one. Let's find number 4. It's a bit buried here. You can see now why you numbered them in order. There's number 4, and pop it in there. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for now because I don't want to sit here and just keep putting the different ones in here. You'll get the point. So let's say you made 10 JPEGs. By the time you're done, you should have 10 JPEGs up in here. Next thing you're going to do is open the animation pane. Don't forget in Photoshop that under the window option is where all of your layer palettes and all these little palettes that pop out exist for you. The brush is in here. We've used that before. We've used 3D before. We always should have our layers showing. And now we're going to play with the animation pane. What you'll see right away is it tends to pop up and populate it right away. You don't really want that to happen. So actually when you open yours, it's very likely to look like this when you first start. Because I've been using this before, mine automatically defaults to the setting called frame animation. So you need to change that. First thing that you have to do is change it to convert to frame animation. All good. Great. So all I did there was click on this little down arrow, and then you get convert to frame animation. Okay, so we're going to use, sometimes this will also happen when you go back into these frames. It will move everything around again on you. It's a little bit annoying, but I actually think it's a glitch in my Photoshop program that seems to be happening and probably won't happen to you guys. So that should be okay. We're going to actually make the frames from these layers. I'm going to toss this one into the garbage. We don't need it right now. And quickly adjust all these guys again because they seem to have moved. And again, I think that's simply because of a problem on my Photoshop. We shouldn't experience that. I haven't noticed it on other student computers, but you can see it's pretty easy to snap them into place. Last one. Great. And the easiest thing to do is click in here and choose Make Frames from Layers. And as you do that, it's going to create 4 frames. You had 4 layers, 0 through 3, and then it's going to create 4 frames for you. This first one here defaulted to 9.4 seconds long. We don't want any of them to be longer than 0.2 seconds. So hold Shift and click your little down arrow and change it to 0.2. All of them at the same time will change to 0.2. Then we're going to do something called adding an opacity tween between them, which allows you, when you change from one to the next, to have it slowly develop and appear over time rather than all at once. In order to do that, you need to click into each one of your frames before you start and make sure the layer below it is visible. So on layer 3 here, I need to make sure that 1 and 0 are also visible, and in frame 4 I need to make sure that these are all visible. Great, once that's done, you're ready to go. You hold Shift and click between your first and second frame, and then click the tween button, which is the series of small circles down here. Automatically defaults to 5. We're going to change that to add 3 frames. It's basically going to invent new frames that change from one to the next over time. You can take off position, but we want it to change with opacity and effects, and choose all layers. Say OK. So what you see it's actually done is if you watch in this top corner here, it's actually slowly adding that blue stripe up in the corner that existed in this final one here, which is where it will be the brightest. Then we'll do the exact same thing between 5 and 6. You need to do a little math here, remembering that you added 3 frames between 1 and 2, so now the next 2 original frames are 5 and 6. So every time you do this, you have to remember that you started on 5 and then count up 3. So here's 3. So we just added 6, 7, and 8. So our last 2 frames, because I only did 4 frames, are going to be 9 and 10. Hit the opacity. Great, and now you see the last planet, in this case, slowly shows up over time. Okay, that's actually sum total of how you do this. The last thing I suggest is you hold your final one for 5 seconds so that it gives a chance for the viewer to look at it to see the final thing that you've created. And then I suggest you change that it loops forever. So after it does the 5 seconds here, it goes back to the start and keeps playing. If you want to see what it looks like, you can pull this down out of the way and press play, and you can see how it slowly develops. And it's going to hold for 5 seconds and then go back to the start. There it goes. Okay, so that's your goal, is to basically just create a very simple animation showing how you developed your file, and with the goal in mind of that final beautiful file being that last image that we see, your final creation there, something that I could print out and put up on the wall. Okay, thank you so much. Good luck.